All right, guys. So we have some pretty terrifying updates coming out of Lebanon, Israel, and Yemen all simultaneously at the moment. So just to get into some of the latest here, the Associated Press has a detailed report on what happened earlier today in Lebanon, where they say here from the headline, Hezbollah was hit by a wave of exploding pagers and is blaming Israel. At least 9 are dead and thousands are injured. So we'll read more into the details here, but essentially what looks like happened is Hezbollah was trying to use more rudimentary communication devices, in this case, pagers, because regular cell phones would be more vulnerable to outside infiltration from Israel or from other foreign governments. And so they were trying to use these pagers. And somewhere along the line, it looks like before they were able to acquire these pager devices, Israel was able to implant some sort of a very small, sophisticated explosive device, and they came up with this plan to remotely detonate them all simultaneously. Now, as you'll see from this reporting here, it looks like many of these detonations came at the cost of innocent civilians. So here were some of the details from the Associated Press. They say that pagers by the hundreds of members of the militant group Hezbollah exploded near simultaneously in Lebanon and Syria on Tuesday, killing at least 9 people, including an 8-year-old girl, and wounding several thousand, according to local officials. Hezbollah and the Lebanese government blamed Israel for what appeared to be a sophisticated remote attack, and it's genuinely hard to believe that it was anybody other than Israel that was responsible for this attack, but, I mean, an 8-year-old girl killed as a part of these attacks. Now, another question that we'll get to more here from some of my other sources is not just the immediate death impact of this, but how many thousands were injured as a part of this attack? How many of those thousands were innocent civilians? How many people were traumatized? I mean, in this case, we had an innocent 8-year-old girl who was killed by this, but how many people saw somebody being blown to bits in front of them in a public area, whether it was a shopping mart or it was a public bus or a vehicle or whatever the case may be? This is a terrifying attack. I mean, genuinely. I see a lot of people in the United States, a lot of people around the sort of like Western sphere on social media who are celebrating this and saying, well, they all deserved it. They all had it coming to them. But like, this is a genuinely terrifying attack, right? Regardless of who's doing it. You have a government who is remotely detonating pagers in the middle of the day in densely packed civilian areas and wounding/killing thousands of people. That's terrifying, right? They continue here. They say, among those wounded was Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. So we're going another step up the escalation ladder here with a potential direct war between Iran and Israel, one that which, I think obviously Israel wants the United States to fight on their behalf, but they say the mysterious incident came amid rising tensions between Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah, which have exchanged fire across the Israel-Lebanon border since the October 7th attack by Hamas that sparked the war in Gaza. The pagers that exploded had apparently been acquired by Hezbollah after the group's leader ordered the members in February to stop using cell phones, warning that they could be tracked by Israeli intelligence. A Hezbollah official told the AP that the pagers were a new brand, but declined to say how long they had been in use. At about 3:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday, as people shopped for groceries, sat in cafes, and drove cars or motorcycles in the afternoon traffic, the pagers in their hands or pockets started to heat up and then exploded, leaving blood-splattered scenes and panicking bystanders. It appeared that many, if not most of those hit, were members of Hezbollah, but it was not immediately clear if others also carried the pagers. The blasts were mainly in the areas where the group had a strong presence, particularly in the southern Beirut suburb and the Bekaa region of eastern Lebanon, as well as in Damascus, Syria, according to Lebanese security officials and Hezbollah officials as well. The Hezbollah official spoke on the condition of anonymity, obviously because he was not authorized to speak to the press. They also say that the AP reached out to the Israeli military, which declined to comment, and the explosives came hours after Israel's internal security agency said that it had foiled an attempt by Hezbollah to kill a former senior Israeli security official using a planted explosive device that could be remotely detonated. So those are basically the details that we know so far, right? Again, pretty much what I outlined at the top. Looks like they were able to get their hands on some of these pagers that Hezbollah decided to start using because they didn't want to use cellular devices that could be more easily tracked by Israeli intelligence or by U.S. intelligence or whoever the case may be. And it looks like somewhere along the line they were able to rig these devices with explosives that they later decided to detonate. Now, in terms of what this looked like in reality, I'm going to try to turn the volume down here so we can play this as a video. This is one example. You can see there pretty quickly. This looks to be somebody who had one of these pagers on his person, and you can see he's in the middle of a market, right? It explodes, people run away. Him if he survived or if he didn't manage to survive. We have another one here. A little bit of a longer video, but the guy in yellow is who you want to focus on here. You have the checkout lady sitting here at the counter. You know, I don't know what he's buying here, something from a gas station, maybe. Seems like a pretty ordinary sort of situation that's developing. And you see him sort of explode, fall to the ground. And yeah, this is some of the images of what these devices look like after the fact, I guess. This is looks like it's sitting on a chair here, another one being held in a hand. Again, to me, this is terrifying, right? I understand why some people who have a very pro-Israel stance would say, well, these Hezbollah militants had it coming, and what do you expect? Fuck around and find out, etc., etc. But guys, they are remotely detonating communication devices in the middle of the day in crowded civilian areas. I want you to think about that, right? Think about the impact that could potentially have on society, the potential impact that could have in terms of an escalation up the ladder here with a potential direct, hot, large-scale war between Israel and Hezbollah. This is terrifying. This is a genuinely terrifying thing that we're witnessing here. Now, we also have here some video of the aftermath of some of the chaos and panic. Now, I've seen other videos as well that I can't show you guys on YouTube, again, because of terms of service, in terms of what the hospitals themselves looked like, taking in some of the people who had been injured by this attack. But here we have is posted by Yasser Ali, scenes of chaos in southern Beirut as hundreds of pagers belonging to members of Hezbollah exploded. This is just one location. Hospital videos show Hezbollah members with various injuries, fingers blown off, hands blown off, injuries. This is just some of the traffic moving to the hospital system. Again, I've seen other videos of people being brought into the hospitals. It's wild, guys. This is crazy shit, okay? I don't know how they managed to pull this off. I don't know how this wasn't some sort of a predictable security breach from Hezbollah's perspective, but absolutely insane. And again, terrifying. Now, we also have here from Seamus saying that Al Jazeera is saying that the pagers in the Israeli attack were indeed packed with explosives and were imported into Lebanese territory 5 months ago. And Axios is saying that the decision was made by the Israeli state to detonate the pagers a week ago. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that this is coming at the same time. If we take this in the broader context of Israel's escalation in the West Bank, of Israel's continued genocide in the Gaza Strip, of the context of how the Biden-Harris administration has been handling the Benjamin Netanyahu administration, and what Benjamin Netanyahu's direct incentives are right now for his own political survival and his own political career. This is terrifying for an entirely different reason than just this specific attack, which is that we are on a track right now for Israel to get themselves involved in a direct, large-scale war with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, and also with, at the same time, potentially Iran, potentially the Houthis, and we'll get to more of that here in a minute. But This is terrifying for the larger scale reason that we have a prime minister in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who has every incentive in the world to not only continue the genocide in Gaza, continue the ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, but to escalate this to a broader regional war. And the United States of America, the only country arguably on the face of the planet that could reasonably do something to stop him, is basically sitting back and allowing him to do whatever he wants. We continue to fund him, to arm him, to give him diplomatic cover. We continue to do everything under the sun to protect his political situation. And his political situation may just involve the United States getting into a war in the region on his behalf, which is incredibly disturbing, or should be disturbing to most Americans. I don't personally want my country to go and fight a war on behalf of Benjamin Netanyahu. Maybe you guys disagree with that. Tell me what you guys think about that. But this is the trajectory, reasonably, that we are heading on right now. Now we move on. We also had this take here from Michael Tracy, which I think is apt. He says that there's lots of giddiness about the mass remote explosive attack across Lebanon today. I'm sure that the kids who witnessed limbs getting randomly blown off in grocery stores will appreciate the technological sophistication of the attack, and they'll grow into huge admirers of Israel and the United States. I'm sure that that will happen, right? We also have this here from Nathan J. Robinson saying that Israel knew that detonating all of these pagers would mean indiscriminately killing civilians because you have no idea where the person with the pager is going to be. Launching explosives in fruit markets and killing children is rightly called terrorism. Now, I don't know what else you could possibly call this kind of an attack. It seems to me that if this had been in the reverse, if Hezbollah had managed to pull together some sort of a sophisticated operation and had rigged the cell phones of top Israeli military officials in Israel with explosive devices, and then they decided on any random week to detonate those explosive devices while those Israeli officials were in civilian areas like supermarkets or buses or cars or whatever the case may be, I find it hard to believe that people would be calling that anything other than terrorism. But the analysis from what I've seen here in the US so far seems to be, well, this was a sophisticated military attack, regardless of whatever the potential tangential consequences could be in this situation, including in this case, the death of an innocent child. Now, we also have here from Yusuf Moyener saying that the apparent Israel mass cyber attack in Lebanon that detonated cellular devices / pagers is a grave violation of international law and opens a dangerous Pandora's box. Almost every human is a walking, ticking time bomb, and it won't be long before this tech is used by many actors. Again, this is a terrifying development, right? Regardless of how you square it. Okay, we had the Israeli military, or the Israeli security forces, or Israeli intelligence forces, who remotely detonated hundreds of devices in a specific country in a coordinated attack that wounded thousands and thousands of people. That's fucking terrifying. Now, we also have here, as an update, in terms of what's going on between Israel and Yemen. Now, here from the Washington Post, they say that there was a missile that was fired from Yemen that landed in the center of Israel. According to the IDF, they say that Yemeni-based Houthi militants claimed responsibility for the attack on Sunday, and Israeli forces said the missile did not cause any direct injuries. There were apparently indirect injuries from people who were trying to go to shelters amidst this missile threat. Now, this also escalated because the Houthis put out this video here, which seems to be some sort of like a highlight reel of one of their new missile systems. They're calling it the Palestine 2. They claim that it is able to reach Mach 16 speeds and is adorned with a keffiyeh on its tip and the Palestinian flag as its winglets, and you can see it in this video here. Now, the reason I bring up this attack, there are conflicting reports about how much success this initial missile launch had. Apparently, it landed in or around Tel Aviv. The Houthis are saying this is just a test strike. There will be future strikes that come, obviously in the immediate future. And this, according to their claims, was a strike that was able to penetrate the Iron Dome systems of defense that Israel has. So for that reason, it's important if that claim is true and the Houthis have a bunch more of these missiles that they could fire towards Tel Aviv and to cause significant destruction. That's a massive, obviously an important escalation of this ladder here in terms of a broader war. But I mean, guys, the origin of this, I can't get over, because you're going to have a bunch of U.S. officials, you're going to have a bunch of U.S. media claiming that it's the Houthis escalating, it's the Houthis that are driving this conflict, it's Hezbollah that's driving this conflict, it's Iran that's driving this conflict. Guys, the Houthis would not be launching this kind of a missile at Tel Aviv if it wasn't for the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Okay, you don't have to agree with everything Hezbollah believes in. You don't have to agree with everything that the Houthis believe in or that Iran believes in to understand that fundamental reality. That if this genocide was not currently happening, if there was some sort of an off-ramp, then this would not be happening. This is not a difficult concept to understand. And so whether or not you are an American who doesn't want our taxpayer dollars by the tens of billions to go to this genocidal apartheid state, whether or not you are an Israeli who purely believes in self-preservation, whether or not you are a citizen of, Lebanon, or a citizen of Yemen, or a citizen of Iran, or whatever the case may be, or Israel, you do not want this kind of an escalation that we are currently on the trajectory towards hitting. This is not beneficial to anybody. It's not beneficial to America. It's not beneficial to Israel. It's not beneficial to Iran. It's not beneficial to Hezbollah. It's not beneficial to Hamas. It's not beneficial to the Houthis. Okay? Now, the only potential reason that we could end up towards this spiral, towards a broader regional conflict that drags the United States into it, is if the United States is unwilling to check Benjamin Netanyahu. If the United States is willing to allow Benjamin Netanyahu to direct our foreign policy approach in the region, then we could potentially end up in an all-out regional war with Hezbollah, with the Houthis, with Iran, with elements in Iraq and Syria. This is the trajectory that we're on, right? That's not an exaggeration to say that that's where we're headed, right? This is what Benjamin Netanyahu wants, okay? Now, again, have whatever analysis that you want about this specific missile system and whether or not it was hypersonic and whether or not it managed to breach the Iron Dome or whether or not it was successful in its mission or it was a test or it was a warning for the future. This is a terrifying situation, guys. It is, regardless of whatever side you want to stand on this current situation. This is terrifying, okay? This could blow up the entire fucking region. Over what? Over the political career of Benjamin Netanyahu? Is that what we're willing to do at this point? It seems like it. It seems like it. Now, to finish off here, further exacerbating the terrifying reality we are all staring down the barrel of here, we also have here from Haaretz, an Israeli outlet, saying that Netanyahu is weighing firing the defense chief, Yoav Gallant, amid talks to bring opposition MK, member of the Knesset, into the government. Now, apparently, the member of the Knesset, Gideon, that he's talking about here, is firmly against any sort of a hostage or ceasefire deal with Hamas. So, again, I mean, listen, Yoav Gallant is not some fucking dove, okay? He's not. Yoav Gallant is fully in support of the genocide in Gaza. He just wanted some sort of a hostage deal to be put in place, right? He may have some surface level disagreements with Benjamin Netanyahu, but this is not some radical leftist we're talking about here. And we're discussing a situation in which Benjamin Netanyahu looks ready to fire his defense minister, right? A guy who, by the way, as a part of being complicit in this genocide, has been so egregious that he's facing potential incoming arrest warrants from the International Criminal Court. The guys listed on that are some Hamas leaders as well as Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. So he's on that short list, right? Again, he's no dove, but he's had some disagreements in Benjamin Netanyahu's strategy when it comes to potentially getting a deal to free the Israeli hostages out of Gaza and back to Israel. And Netanyahu is discussing firing this man to replace him with more of a loyalist who is ready to blow up the fucking world for the political career of Benjamin Netanyahu. So the question becomes, when does this stop? When does the Biden administration wake up? When will Kamala Harris break from the Biden administration? Trump, we know, is so far gone that he's no longer salvageable at this point. He took $100 million from the Adelsons in order to sell out the West Bank to allow Israel in the future to fully annex the West Bank. Trump is not even in this discussion. The question to me is more, how long will Joe Biden allow this to be the defining moment of his legacy? He's a lame duck president at this point. Is he going to allow Benjamin Netanyahu to drag the United States into a Middle East war again as the final part of his dying legacy? Is Kamala Harris going to allow this to be the defining potential future of her administration? I mean, what are we doing here, guys? This should not be a difficult question at this point. This should be easy, both from a moral as well as a political perspective. This is not difficult. And yet the United States seems hellbent at this point at allowing us to continue on this trajectory. And it's absolutely terrifying.
Politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying